Last time I explained the difference between Bhakti Yoga and Bhakti. Our Bhakti is that state when one is completely absorbed in God, indeed leading to forgetfulness of self. And one never leaves thought of God. This is Parabhakti. And when you are not able to do that, Krishna recommends that you go into what we call as Bhakti Yoga. Because Bhakti Yoga is the means by which one attains both moksha as well as Parabhakti. I explained last time the verses from the Bhagavad Gita that justify this. And thereafter, if you follow any other path to the exclusion of Bhakti Yoga, what happens is that you may reach moksha, you may reach Brahma Bhut. But from there you have to switch and you have to take the path of Parabhakti. If you do not take the path of Parabhakti on attaining moksha, if you do not take the path of Parabhakti on attaining Brahmabhut, then you fall down again into material existence. So there were some questions on what really Parabhakti is. So it's important to understand that Parabhakti is absorption and remembrance of God in complete forgetfulness of self. Indeed, it is both unmotivated and uninterrupted. There is a verse in the Bhagavad Puran which describes the highest form of religion. And when he describes the highest form of religion, he does not say this religion or that religion. He simply says, Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhoksaje ahai tuki apratihata yayatma suprasiddhati. The highest form of religion is that form of religion that teaches you how to love God. And for this to fully satisfy the soul, it must be unmotivated and it must be uninterrupted. Ahaituki apratihata. These are important words which mean that it should be unmotivated and uninterrupted. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches us how to pray in his Shikshashtakam. And in his Shikshashtakam he states, न धनम न जनम न सुंदरिम कविताम व जगदीश कामये मम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरे भवतात भक्ति रहे तुकी तोई. Oh Lord, he says, he's praying to Krishna, he says, Oh Krishna, I don't want wealth, I am not asking you for wealth. No dhanam, no janam. People are willing to give up wealth, but they want disciples and followers. He says, I don't want disciples or followers either. Na sundarim kavitam va jagdish kamaye. I do not seek attractive members of the opposite sex. Mama janmani janmanishware bhavatat bhakti rahi tuki toi. And when you don't want all these worldly things, what do you want? You want moksha. He says, Oh Lord, not only do I not want wealth, not only do I not want disciples or followers, not only do I not want attractive members of the opposite sex, but I do not even want moksha. I'm not even asking you for moksha. You can bring me back into this world again and again and again to serve you. So this is called ahituki, not desiring kamani, kanchan, disciples or followers, not even seeking for moksha. but being willing to come back into this world again and again and again so that he can serve him, serve the Lord. To serve the Lord, you might think that he will be seeing the Lord all the time. And so, even if he is born in this world, what difference does it make? Because if he is born in this world and he is serving God, and we will be seeing God all the time, isn't it? But in the Shikshashtakam, Krishna clearly says, Ashlishava padratam pinastumam adarshanam marmatam karotuva yatha tatha vidatu lampato mat prananathastu saeva naparaha. That, O Lord, even if you make me broken-hearted, even if I cannot see you, even if you make me broken-hearted by never appearing in front of me, even if you treat me roughly in your embrace, no special treatment, even if you treat me roughly in your embrace, even if you make me broken-hearted by never appearing in front of me, even then, O Lord, you shall be my worshipful Lord unconditionally. This is the meaning of unconditional love of God. And this unconditional love of God is called Parabhakti, where you don't want anything from God and you don't expect anything from God, and yet God remains the sole object of your devotion. So not only are you absorbed in God in forgetfulness of self, but you ask and demand nothing from Him. Similarly, you must understand the meaning of uninterrupted. I've earlier quoted this verse, Mam chayo avhyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sa gunan samatityetan brahma bhuya kalpate. It says very clearly in this verse that when you are absorbed in, engaged in bhakti yoga without any distraction, interruption, then he says you shall rise above the three gunas and you will be situated on the platform of Brahma Bhut. To become Gunatita, you need to truly become situated on that platform where you are constantly absorbed in Bhakti Yoga and where you transcend all activity in the world by being absorbed in God. Even though you are engaged in all your duties, all your activities, you are absorbed in God and offering everything to Him. Yatah pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvam idam tatam swakarmana abhyarchaya siddhim vindati manavaha. So Krishna is explaining how one can attain God by performing your God-given duties and responsibilities in a spirit of devotion, sacrifice to God. You will attain perfection. So indeed, this is Parabhakti. And there is no interruption, not 3 times a day or 5 times a day. Clearly, Krishna points out, it is uninterrupted. In the Bhagavad Gita, he teaches, Yat karoshi yad ashnasi yat juhosi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushva madarpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, whatever you give away, whatever charities, whatever austerities you perform, everything, Krishna says, do it for me. There's a verse in the Bhagavatam which says, Rite artham yad pratiyeta na pratiyeta chadatmani yad vidyad atmanomayam yatha bhaso tatha tamaha. Everything that you see in relationship with God, that is divine, that is wonderful, that is perfect. But anything you see in the world where you do not see the connection with God, That is abhasa, that is tamaha, that is maya, that is illusion. So true devotion is totally unmotivated and it is completely uninterrupted. And Bhakti Yoga is the means to attain that. To understand Bhakti Yoga and how to fix your mind upon God, we must turn to none other than Prahlad. So Prahlad is sitting on the lap of his father, Hiranyakashipu. And his father is telling him that this enemy I have killed yesterday, this enemy I have killed day before yesterday, this enemy I shall kill today, this enemy I shall destroy tomorrow. And his son tells him, my dear father, why do you not realize that you have no enemy in this world? You have no enemy in this world. The only enemy you have is your own uncontrolled mind. In this world, you have truly no enemy. Your only enemy is your own uncontrolled mind. What a profound statement. Nobody is your enemy. It's your own mind that is your enemy. It's your mind that creates enemies. And then how to control that mind? So he explains to his father how to control that mind. He says to control that mind, fix it upon God. And how do you fix it upon God? So then he describes what is called, what we now know as Naudha Bhakti. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Vishnu, Pad Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. Iti Pumsarpita Vishnor Bhaktischin Navalakshana. Kriyate Bhagavati Adha Tanmani Adhitam Uttamam. Shravanam, hearing. To hear about God from authentic sources, that is the first of the 9 principles of bhakti. Hearing about God. In fact, Krishna, after describing Dhyan Yoga, after describing Gyan Yoga, after describing Karma Yoga, he finally says that why don't you listen? Because by listening itself, you can cross over the cycle of birth and death. Dhyanena atmani pashyanti kechid atmanam atmanah अन्ये च सांख्येन योगेन कर्म योगेन चापरे अन्ये त्व एवम अजनन्ता श्रुत्वानभ्योपासते ते अपि अतितरन्तरेव मृत्युम श्रुति परायणः. So there are those who realize God through meditation. We have covered this. Dhyan Yoga. Dhyanena atmani pashyanti kechid atmanam atmanah. Anyecha Sankhena Yogena. He says there are others who through the path of knowledge. In the Bhagavad Gita, the path of knowledge is spoken of as Sankhya Yoga. That is the principal path of knowledge taught in the Bhagavad Gita. Anyecha Sankhena Yogena. Others through the path of Sankhya Yoga, through the path of knowledge, attain God. Karma Yogena Chapare. Then he says there are others who by engaging in working with devotion, in a spirit of renunciation, they attain perfection, they attain God. He says, then there are others who are ignorant of all these methods. Anyetva evam ajananta shrutvanebhyo upasate te api atitirante eva mrityum shruti parayana. Having abandoned and given up attempts at all these methods because they are ignorant of them, they simply hear from authentic sources about God. And through the process of hearing, they cross over this ocean of birth and death. So, this is the path of Shravanam. And the example of Shravanam is in the Bhagavad Purana. In the Bhagavad Puran, we have Maharaj Parikshit, who is cursed to die within 7 days. And when he is cursed to die within 7 days, he is unable to engage in any of these methods which are prescribed: meditation, knowledge, engaging in working in a spirit of devotion and renunciation. There's not time for that. It's only 7 days. So when he has only 7 days to go, he goes to Sukadeva Goswami, and going to him, he asks him, what is the duty of a person who is about to die? And then Sukadeva Goswami recites the entire Bhagavad Purana. And this Bhagavad Purana over 7 days and 7 nights, which is recited, helps him to transcend, to remember God and forget himself. And it helps him to be absorbed in God, so that when Takshak, the snake, comes and bites him to kill him, his physical body, his soul goes back to Godhead. So this is all through the process of Shravanam. And Shravanam is indeed the best method by which one can start or begin the process of devotion. In fact, that's what you're doing now. You're listening. So Shravanam is the path. So remember that this path is meant for people like Parikshit, who have no time left. But then who knows who has time left? We live in times of COVID, and people we knew and we expected to live long are no more. All of us know at least somebody who has fallen victim to COVID. And surely you understand that no one knows who has time and who does not have time. The Bhagavad Gita teaches you how to live life, because Krishna explains to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita that don't run away from life, don't run away from your duties, engage in your duties, engage in life. He even shows him that at the end of the battle, you and your brothers will remain unharmed. So Bhagavad Gita is about how to live life. The Bhagavad Puran is about how to face death. Because the Bhagavad Puran tells you the story of Parikshit, who is facing death. So for those who want to learn to live life, should follow Bhagavad Gita as the primary text. Those who are preparing to meet death should be absorbed in Bhagavad Puran. So Shravanam, so you have the example of what is popularly known today as Bhagavad Katha. Bhagavad Katha is about listening, hearing about the Lord in such a manner that you become completely absorbed in God, in forgetfulness of self. And through this one attains Parabhakti. So The first method is Shravanam. The next is called Kirtanam. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Vishnu, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. So, Kirtanam is to recite the glories of God, to recite the name of God, to be engaged in discussing with others the path of God realization. So, speaking about God, first you hear about God. When you hear about God, the next thing you do is that you begin to speak, glorify God. Not only do you glorify God, but you also begin to chant His name, to sing His bhajan. And in this way, by kirtanam, one transcends and remains transcendent to this world and absorbed in God. Good example of this is none other than Narad Muni. And there are so many others after that, including Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shikshashtakam, he says, Cheto darpana marjanam bhava mahadavagni nirvapanam Shreyo kairava chandrika vitaranam vidyavaddu jivanam Anandam buddhi vardhanam pratipadam purnamrita swadanam Sarvatma snapanam param vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. So just like a mirror which is being wiped clean of all the dust, the names of God wipe your mind clean of all sin, all sinful activity, all sinful inclination. It wipes your mind clean of all thoughts of self and helps to fill your mind with the sound of God's name. And like the cooling rays of the moon, it brings great peace and great happiness into your mind and into your heart. It brings great joy as all the shackles of the mind are destroyed. These are all the glories of chanting God's name, Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. So you will experience this yourself if you are following the instructions that I am giving you. I have suggested to you that the most important mantra in Kali Yuga is the one that is in the Kali Santarana Upanishad. It is the Upanishad for the age of Kali Yuga. And by studying this Kali Santarana Upanishad, it clearly states, Hari Ram, Ram Ram, Hari Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Iti Shodh Shakam Nam Nam Kali Kalmashu Nashanam Natah Parataropaya Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate. So he clearly says that by chanting this 16 syllable mantra, all the knowledge of the Vedas, all spiritual knowledge, everything will be revealed to you within your heart. And therefore, by doing kirtanam of this Maha Mantra, which is this mantra for this age, you will find silence from all misery, all relief, and all suffering. How much should you chant? Well, the correct answer is Kirtaniya Sadahari, which means always chant God's name. Whenever your mind is not engaged, whenever you are waiting, whenever you are expecting something to happen, like you're waiting for a phone call, you're waiting for someone to come, Don't keep your mind idle, chant God's name. So the instruction is Kirtaniya Sada Hari, always chant God's name. The Kali Santarana Upanishad explains that you must chant God's name the equivalent of 108 beads of the mala into 64 times. So this is the total amount that people are recommended to chant according to the Kali Santarana Upanishad. But if you are not retired, if you are working, as most of you are, then take this opportunity to chant as much as possible. I personally recommend that to see direct effects of chanting God's name, you will be getting this, if you will experience the effects. If you chant 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening, and if you do this for 15 days, only 15 days I am asking you to get a taste of what it means. Of course, if you can chant more, nothing like it. But all of us, we have to work. So out of 24 hours of the day, if we can devote 4 hours to chanting God's name, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening, you will find that you will experience extraordinary advancement in your spiritual life within as short a time as 15 days. If you don't get any result, please let me know, because I guarantee it. There may be people who chant less, but they will get less benefit. And they will be people who perhaps are retired, perhaps are unable to do anything. So if they are able to chant 64 times, that means 8 hours minimum a day, then by chanting 8 hours a day, they will find dramatic effects, absolutely dramatic effects. In fact, I would suggest that if you get a Sunday, which is a holiday, in fact, it is a holy day. If you take a Sunday, which is a holy day, and if you chant 64 times 108 on the beads, that means it will work out to roughly around 8 hours, because it takes between 5 minutes and 7 minutes to complete one mala. So between 5 minutes and 7 minutes is the right time. If you chant faster than 5 minutes, then your mind is distracted. If you chant a mala in more than 7, 8 minutes, then your mind is again wandering. So therefore, if you chant this way, which will amount to 16 malas in the morning, 16 malas in the evening, and on holy days, if you can chant 64 malas, you will find a dramatic, astounding difference. It has to be present. It is proven, and you can prove it to yourself. If it does not work, you must tell me. This is one way of doing chanting, glorification, kirtanam. But Krishna also says that one other way of kirtanam is to recite the glories of God. If you can teach someone the Bhagavad Gita, that is also kirtanam. And teaching Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains, is a wonderful thing. But this Bhagavad Gita is not meant for everybody. Krishna in the 18th chapter, text 67 clearly states, Idam te na tapashkaya na bhaktaya kadachan na cha shushushve vachyam na cha mam abhyasuyati. This knowledge, this confidential knowledge revealed in the Bhagavad Gita, should not be explained to those who are not austere, who are not have no capacity to perform tapasya, those who are not devoted to me, those who are not engaged in bhakti, nor to one who is envious of God. Who is Krishna? Why should we worship him? Such people you should kindly exclude from talking about Bhagavad Gita and the message of Krishna. So if you remember whom you should not tell the Bhagavad Gita to, he also describes earlier that there are 4 types of people who you should avoid. Those who are Naradhama, the lowest among mankind, the most degraded among mankind. Those who are Maya Parthagnana, those whose knowledge has been stolen by study of Prakriti, that they think they know everything. So also, he says that those who are atheistical, so these people should not be explained the Bhagavad Gita. Now, Krishna says in 18.68, Ya idam paramam guyam mad bhakteshva vidhasyati bhaktim mam mai param kritva mam evashyatya asamshaya. For one who explains this supreme secret, this Bhagavad Gita, to devotees of Krishna, for him bhakti is guaranteed. For him para bhakti is guaranteed. And he will come back to me eventually. न च तस्मान मनुष्येषु कश्चिन में प्रियकृतमः भविता न च मे तस्माद अन्य प्रियतरो भुवि. There is no servant in this world, there is no human being in this world who is more dear to me than such a person, nor will there be anyone more dear. So therefore, please remember, Kirtanam is chanting God's name. Kirtanam is reciting God's glories. Kirtanam is also speaking this message of the Bhagavad Gita to appropriate qualified people and avoiding telling the message of the Bhagavad Gita to inappropriate, unqualified people. So, we have finished today Shravanam Kirtanam. If you have any questions so far, I'll be happy to take them.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes.
Okay. So one of the questions that we have today is, what is the difference between bhakti and parabhakti?
I already explained to you. Those who are engaged in bhakti yoga, correct bhakti yoga. I'm not talking about people who are acting according to their own whim and fancy. Shruti smriti puranadi pancharatra vidim vina aikantaki harer bhakti utpatayeva kalpate. There are people who imagine this one is the person who I will do bhakti to, that one I will do bhakti to, and they will pick up some sadhu, some muni, some this thing, some stone, some creature, and then they will start worshipping. That is absolutely not bhakti. Bhakti is bhakti of Vishnu, bhakti of Krishna. That is bhakti. And it is performed under the guidance of the teachers of bhakti, those who will advise you to follow a discipline of bhakti yoga. If you do not do this and you act according to your own whim and fancy, Shruti, Smriti, Puranadi, Pancharatra Vidim Vina, Aikantaki Harer Bhakti Utpatayeva Kalpate, then these people are creating a nuisance in society. Those who practice what they imagine to be bhakti without reference to the scripture, or without the guidance of a teacher, these people are a nuisance to society. This is very important. So that is, once that is clear, I can tell you that bhakti is a natural state of being absorbed in God, unmotivatedly, uninterruptedly, in complete, absolute forgetfulness of self. It is a state which is beyond moksha. Bhakti yoga is bhakti as a discipline. You are following the example of a teacher who will give you what discipline you must follow in order to practice bhakti yoga. You must chant so many times a day. This is what you must do. This book you must read. These chapters you must learn by heart. This is what you must not do. That you have to give up meat eating, illicit sex, intoxication, gambling. So all these things, you must give up anarthas, those that are nothing to do with God, you will have to give up. Those that is things that have nothing to do with your profession, your work, your business, and God, give it up. So all these things will be taught, and you follow those as a discipline. And if you follow them as a discipline, you will gradually come to both moksha as well as to parabhakti.
Thank you, Dr. Shantanu. Dr. Shantanu, you also mentioned chanting, and you also mentioned that, most of us are working and, they lead busy lives. So my question is, and, I'm speaking for a lot of young people who want to start or who are already doing it. Can one chant while, they are going about their daily lives, while probably taking a shower, or while they're cooking, or things like that? So while they're doing
So
their
all
daily
those things that you are doing, all those things that you are doing are to be offered to God. Everything you do must be offered to God with the invocation of Om Tat Sat, that, oh Lord, this is being done for you. So everything you do for God. Your life should become an unbroken, unmotivated prayer and meditation upon the Lord. When you get the time, you must chant. When you're doing things that do not require your mind, you must chant. Yes, continue.
Okay. Dr. Shantanu, another question that we have is, how can we stay away from, you mentioned Maya and illusion, earlier in the session. So how can one stay away from Maya and illusion and start practicing Parabhakti?
So we'll be doing that as we finish this 9 process of bhakti. Then I will go on to what are the stages of bhakti that you will go through. I will also explain what are the bhava, or what is the attitude and intimate relationship you must have with God. All this I will explain to you. But essentially, what I'm saying is that if you are chanting the name of God sincerely, you will get immediate relief. Immediate. I don't care what you're going through. I don't know if you are going through loss of a loved one. I don't know if you are going through death of a loved one. I don't know if you are going through problems in your career, whether you're going through problems in finances. I don't know what it is. But whatever you're going through, chanting will give you guaranteed relief. Guaranteed. Did I answer the question, or is there something else you
Yes.
wanted to know?
Yes. I was waiting for you to finish. Thank you, Dr. Shantanu. I think this is, the questions that we have this week. Before, I hand it over to you to brief us about the next session, I would just like to, tell our viewers once again that all the sessions of Dr. Shantanu will be available on the Speaking Tree website also. I have posted the link in the comments section. So within one day or even sometimes on the same day of the session, the link can be seen as an article on Dr. Shantanu's profile on speakingtree.in. So please go through it, use it as a reference material, and you can go through it again. And of course, it's also available as a video in the video section of Facebook of Speaking
See,
Tree.
video is the main thing, or audio at least you should listen to, because the process is Shravanam. It does not say Vachanam. It doesn't say that you must read it.
Read
It
it.
says you must hear it. See, there are different neural pathways for seeing, different neural pathways for hearing. So you must understand when it says Shravanam Kirtanam means hearing. So the best thing you can do is to hear. So if hearing becomes difficult, watch the video. But hearing is paramount. And in case you feel you miss some point here or there, you can refer to the textual part. But don't take the text as a substitute or a replacement for hearing. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Vishnu, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam, Iti Pumsar Pita Vishnor, Bhaktischennava Lakshana, Kriyate Bhagavati Adha Tan Manya Ditam Uttamam. That you must listen.
So as Dr. Shantanu rightly said, listen first and read later if you miss out on certain points. So please see, in the video section of Speaking Tree on the Facebook page of Speaking Tree, it will be available as a video shortly after the live session ends. Dr. Shantanu, before we close this session, would you like to brief us on what we can look forward to next week?
So next week I will continue with this. We have done only Shravanam and Kirtanam. There's much more which needs to be completed next time. So we will continue with the balance of the 9 processes of bhakti next time.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Shantanu, and look forward to the next session. Hari Om.
Jai Shri Krishna, Hari Om.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.